What's up, everybody? Welcome to Found Flicks. Paul and I just got back from seeing Lights Out. So this was adapted from this YouTube filmmaker, and he actually created a full-length version out of a short that was extremely popular. And I like the short. I don't know about you. What did you think about
it? It was great.
Yeah, I mean, but it was only 2.5 minutes or something like that, maybe. I mean, definitely not long at all. And the whole idea of it was just essentially to build tension and then building to the final shot and the reveal of what is the creature, basically, for this short. And so the whole question is, how can you adapt this thing that's very, very short into something that's, well, I was going to say full length, but that's not quite accurate either.
The answer is you can't.
You can't. Yeah, I mean, that might be correct, because even though this movie is, what, maybe 80 minutes long, it didn't really even seem to be able to stretch to that time length. And from when I watched the trailer, one of my main concerns was, especially going from the short to the full length, what is it that I would want to see more of in the full length version? And it seems like what they went for, at least according to the trailer and was accurate in the movie, was backstory.
So there was some promise, only because prior to like the title of the film showing up, it was essentially kind of a slightly extended version of the short. It was like a 5-minute version versus a 2.5-minute version.
Yeah.
That pretty much hit almost the same beats.
Right. What seemed weird to me is that it just sort of drops you right into this kind of bizarre location, like a mannequin warehouse. And Billy Burke of Twilight fame is the husband to Maria Bello, and I guess he's the big mannequin man in town, because he's the one that's there working late at night. Listen, it's going to be one more hour. These fucking mannequins aren't going to sell themselves, honey. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and they weren't, because he had plenty. He had plenty stashed in the family basement.
That's true. They were all,
as we soon learned,
over the place. So the opening was kind of again a nice feeling of maybe, okay, I can see how this could work. But even in the opening, they already reused what became the gimmick of the movie, which is this this creature can only hurt you when there isn't light. That's the whole thing. It kind of draws its power from the darkness. As long as there's light, you'll be okay, and that's what Billy Burke tries, but ultimately you can't really control the light that much, because the thing just takes over and he winds up dead anyway. So going from the intro into the kind of bulk of the movie after the title is a little confusing, because it's hard to even say what the connection is from the intro to what we start seeing after that.
Honestly, up until literally the last frame of the movie, I did not understand really what his connection was to the family, only because it didn't seem like what happened to Billy Burke in that intro. It didn't seem like a flashback.
Right.
But
it was like, and now we're cutting to all these other characters.
But
that's what it felt like.
But the fact that
there was a period of time between the intro to the rest of the movie that wasn't explained. In the first scene, the first time that we even see Teresa Palmer and her boyfriend, they had just gotten done boning. There's no question about that.
Like 15 seconds before the camera rolled.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's it's sweaty and glistening, and it's a little gross. It's kind of gross.
It's a little gross.
Like, I mean,
they
haven't even wiped up yet.
And even when you've come into that scene, you're kind of like, what is going on? I don't know who these people are, what any of it means.
Well, because it seems like she instantly hates him.
Yeah, exactly. Instantly repulsed. Because the first thing the boyfriend says is like, hey, let's go again. And she's like, no, not right now, you know, whatever. And just kind of brushes him off. And that's, again, encapsulates their whole relationship. He's interested, but she isn't.
So I guess you would call her the protagonist.
Yeah, Teresa Palmer.
Teresa Palmer, as far as screen time goes,
she's on screen the most. She kind of doesn't seem that nice to her sort of put upon boyfriend.
She also doesn't seem that unpleasant either.
No, I mean, it's not like abusive or anything, but it seems like the boyfriend is willing to put up with all of this because essentially Teresa Palmer is such a nice piece of tail. So he's kind of like, yeah, I'm going to do whatever this girl needs from me. That's where I come into play.
That's way more than the movie gives.
Yeah, I'm giving him too much credit.
All right, so Teresa Palmer's character is sort of established, and then we kind of move on from that and meet her family, her mother and her brother. Teresa Palmer doesn't live with them. I don't know what age she is. She's an 18-year-old.
Yeah,
she's a 35-year-old. I mean,
well, like I said, she has an apartment, so she has some kind of income. It
seems like a big deal that she's not living with her parents,
I guess,
with her mom anymore.
Yeah.
So her mom and her brother,
Joseph Mazzello. The
16,
reincarnation
of
him for 2016. Jurassic Park, Lost World.
Jurassic Park. What's that movie? Star Kid?
Star Kid.
I have to urinate!
The kid is upset and he doesn't sleep a lot because his mom, played by Maria Bello, has weird night habits. She's up all night, it seems, with some sort of possibly ghostly presence that only she can sort of see. We walks in on her talking to just the darkness, basically. Talking to
the bad guy.
To an empty closet, a dark closet, and there's clearly something in it. I mean, it's all ominous. And
it's pretty freaking
She
ominous.
says weird things that sort of creeps him out. He goes back to bed. He catches this sight of this thing, and then it just goes outside his door and bangs and
it starts banging and turns the knobs. And that's why it's one of those things where it's like, what is the intent of the villain here? Is it to spook the audience, or what is it doing to the character? You know what I mean? It's like, if it's trying to eat this kid or kill him or get rid of him, then why doesn't it just do it? Instead of like, I'm just gonna rattle this knob and blah, blah, blah.
Well, it's instead to like make Child Protective Services be aware that this kid's not getting a lot of sleep. And it's messing up his school.
Yeah, that was a weird thing that kind of reminded me of Annabelle, which Paul has not had the pleasure of seeing. What a great film. Oh my God, I loved it. Spooky dolls, folks. I think it was Alfred Woodard that plays the same kind of character as his Child Protective Services character in this movie. And that character in Annabelle had a lot to do, but in this movie, the Child Protective Services character, who fills the exact same role in the story, does basically nothing. She's only there for 1 or 2 scenes and kind of makes the whole system of Child Protective Services seem not like it's working that great. If Maria Bello can be in charge of this child. She's not taking her vitamins, Paul. That's all I know. She's not taking her medicine.
Yeah, I thought that was a little precious. Mom, are you taking your vitamins? Yeah. She doesn't want him to know that, she's on, psychiatric drugs
nuts.
Or whatever. She's secretly nuts.
Yes.
Mom, are you taking your vitamins? So did she not take her medicine and Teresa Palmer got scared and moved out? And then she took her medicine and things were good for 10, 15 years. And then just sort of in the beginning of this movie, maybe prior a week or 2 before the film starts, she stops, and that's why Monster Diana shows up.
I mean, yeah, that's one thing that the film kind of, it makes it, if you start trying to analyze it, where it falls apart is because the timeline of where things happen in relation to other things doesn't quite stack up.
We had a lot of discussions where we were trying to figure things out and we were basically jumping to conclusions only because the movie did not offer any.
Earlier in the movie, we saw when the kid first gets taken to Teresa Palmer's apartment and she takes him, again, out of Maria Bello's house, that when Diana showed up at that point, I thought that it was actually tied to the kid instead of the mom, but that would have been a twist, and they weren't really ready for that one either.
Oh, we had our eyes peeled.
Yeah, we were like,
twists
anything.
All over. God,
please just give us anything.
Thought it was coming. The fact that when the kid goes, when he's he can't sleep or whatever, and he goes and stays at Teresa Palmer's place, and Diana Monster follows him there.
Yeah, it doesn't really follow its own rules. That's the whole thing. It doesn't really make clear what it is that this thing can do or not, and that's kind of, I think, a big fault of the whole movie actually, is that it's just never clear what this creature or spirit is capable of, because we essentially find out that it is the living spirit of Maria Bello's friend from when she was in a psychiatric hospital.
Who died from some controversial light treatment
therapy. They did this, experiment on her involving light treatment, and they show these photographs and there's just dust left behind.
Did she disintegrate in the light? She was just dust on an electric chair or something.
That's exactly, she became, it. You know what it is? It's fucking Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2, where he's one with the electricity. You know what I mean?
Why aren't we doing that movie?
I know. We should be doing
I have a lot to say about that.
When, the monster is over at Teresa Palmer's house, what's Maria Bello doing? She's like, oh, finally, the demon bitch is gone and I can have a nice night and eat some Kettle brand, sriracha popcorn, so that'll be nice. They actually had Kettle specific branding in the movie. There's a point when the kid comes home and he's carrying a bag of groceries and it's just placed on top so delicately so that you can see everything and know what flavor it is. Available at Kroger's right now.
By the way, Avenged Sevenfold has a new album out.
Yeah, exactly.
Available now.
Teresa Palmer is supposed to be goth, but something that the filmmakers don't seem to realize is if you put a girl in a black shirt with some sheer sleeves, that doesn't make her goth. Or put some Avenged Sevenfold posters on the wall. Okay, so we hear that light is what protects us from this thing, but ultimately this thing can control the light, so it doesn't actually matter that much. Like you were saying about the black light later in the movie, they bring up black light into the equation more than like a flashlight or whatever. Oh, this thing seems like it'll be special. Well,
like,
I mean, it kind of made it look different. Like it looked pretty good, you know.
What?
You don't think so?
I had a black light when I was 14 years old. It was nothing special to me.
Only exciting for teenagers.
I mean,
is what you're saying.
I mean, if they were waving around a lava lamp, that'd be
Wait, what if Diana was holding 2 black lights and was waving them around and was like dancing around, like she was like freaking out, and it was like, boo. Then what would you think?
I mean, I would have freaked out.
You'd have to freak out.
I would have been screaming in that theater. I would have been kicked out.
I'm sorry, sir. You're screaming too much. You have to leave.
You need to quiet down. I can't.
I'm not capable.
I'm not going to do that, sir. Aren't you
my
looking at the screen like I am? Like all of us
If you
are.
just looked up on the screen, you'd understand.
There's 2 black lights.
Just waving around.
Everywhere. Like we were saying, where the ending is Teresa Palmer and her brother get locked by the Diana monster in the cellar. It scares away her boyfriend, who then brings back some police. A squad car shows up with 2 cops who then get cannon fodder, basically.
Well, and yeah, exactly. You're like, here comes some extra people that we can eliminate immediately.
We can't kill these characters you're supposed to care about.
You've watched them for 50 minutes. Like, you love them at this point. I would say when the cops showed up in that portion, once the boyfriend returns to the whole thing, would kind of be what I would consider the highlight of the movie. It was sort of the only point that it felt like they were actually using the concept in the right way, where it's like this whole idea of the lights and everything, like it can terrorize these people. Like they didn't really ever take advantage of that.
Even with cops showing up and being murdered by a demon ghost, Maria Bello is hanging out in her bedroom for literally like the last 20 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
While real shit is going down. Just the fact that Teresa Palmer and Joseph Mazzello 2016, they are in the basement / cellar pulling on the door, like violently screaming for a good 5 to 10 minutes of this movie. They are done there for a long time. Maria Bello never, she doesn't do,
Well, and even it
when she shows up, it's just like you kind of forgot she was even in the goddamn house.
Like Maria Bello shows up and she's packing heat, and she says again, there's no way that she can exist without me and all this stuff. And
well, I think she takes a couple shots before she reaches that conclusion.
Of course.
She does definitely try to shoot the ghost.
Her immediate intent, her instinct is to open fire on the ghost, which I don't know if I would ever think of that. Like, if in real life you saw a ghost, what would your first reaction be? If you were trying to I need to take this thing down.
It makes sense only because that's essentially how Conjuring 2, Insidious 1, 2, and 3. I mean, that's how those all ended.
They shoot it.
Just shooting the shit out. And that's how you take care of it.
Maybe that's true. Maybe that's the James Wan way.
That's the twist.
Just give it.
That's
the twist. Is that it didn't work.
It didn't work.
You couldn't shoot it this time.
My jaw was on the floor.
Yeah, all of our jaws collectively were on the floor when Maria Bello opened fire. It had no effect on the ghost lady.
Yeah,
and she's all, that won't hurt me.
And I guess because the bullet, as you pull the trigger, there's a flash, and so that disappears. Otherwise, maybe it would have worked.
That's true, actually. Ultimately, it might have worked in the
So if it was like
Waniverse.
a silencer, maybe? So I don't know if those give off flashes.
Yeah, we'll have to test that in the sequel. And so Maria Bello knows there's only one choice now, and that without Maria Bello, Diana can't exist, and so she shoots herself.
Sacrifices herself.
Oh, you're right.
Because she had so much to live for.
Yeah, I know. By living in terror from her ghost friend that was turned into electric dust.
Yeah.
20 years ago. But yeah, that was a big thing that I thought was kind of a poor choice, was actually changing the design of the creature and turning it into this more typical, well, I would say James Wan kind of style of things. It seemed like they were like, please, can you just consider us to be The Conjuring? We've got a mid-century house that looks like it's from the 70s, and we've got a ghost. Can we have some money?
This was not a movie.
Yeah, that's kind of the major issue with this after an hour of talking about it, is this didn't ever feel like a movie. From the beginning to the end, none of it was fleshed out, and it just didn't really work at any point. And even they had a concept that might have been interesting, but they didn't even try to develop it enough in any way that was anything beyond a cliche. It was just like stupefying to kind of watch that happening. It was before. We did it. We made it through all 80 minutes of the movie. Couldn't even give me 110 minutes. Can't come up with some more bullshit with some light switches for 20 more minutes.
I don't know if you noticed me checking my watch.
I did. I saw Paul checking his Fitbit watch
like
multiple
5 or
times.
6 times.
I know. He's like, God, when is this going to end? It's like, bro, it hasn't even been 20 minutes at this point. We're just getting started. All right, guys, thanks for sticking with us through this review. Obviously, it wasn't the best movie. I wish it was better, but you can't really argue with what's on screen, and it just didn't really come together. So what did you guys think? Did you see Lights Out? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks to Paul for dropping by.
Thanks for having me, dude.
That's great. Thanks for watching Foundflix, and for me and Paul, we'll see you next time, and make sure to subscribe to Foundflix for all the best in horror entertainment. Later. See you on Annabelle 2, because we know that's going to be a real winner.
Sign the contract.
Yeah,
and
sign
get
it.
Out of my
sign
face.
it now. Listen, this is my office. I'm James Wan. You don't leave without signing this contract, or you never work in this town again. I saw Lights Out. It was bullshit.
Sign that contract fast.
Yeah.
And furious.
And
furious.
Aquaman.